what I wanted to ask you about was, you're such an expert on grey hair, aren't you? You've become...
Been colouring hair a long time.
You have, but you sent grey-haired models down a catwalk somewhere.
Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Yes, so long ago, and it was such a sensation.
9 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all, as beauty writers, had to rush about and say, oh, can grey hair be cool? And the answer is yes, particularly if you know how to do it, like you do. And since then, grey has been a kind of a colour option to play with, really, hasn't it? So I get a lot of questions about, if you are a middle-aged woman and you're thinking about going grey, how do you do it without just the awfulness of letting it all grow through and cutting it off? How do you manage it?
I mean, that's a really good question, and I think it's something that can't be answered in one specific.
Sure, because it depends on what's going on in your hair.
I mean,
anyway,
ultimately, I don't think it's, for me, the people that I talk to about going grey are all ages. So it's not like a middle-aged quest for me. I mean, I started to get my first grey hairs when I was in my 20s.
Did you?
So there's a lot of people that are seeing the first greys and thinking, should I actually colour it? Or and so that group, it's a very different story than, let's say, you've been colouring your hair brown and then you want to grow the colour out.
Okay.
So the darker the colour that you are, it's generally more difficult to blend in or to transition to grey.
Yes.
So if you're colouring your hair brown and you get a regrowth and you really want to start to develop the grey coming through more as an accent, it's quite challenging because you've generally got quite a lot of old tinted brown hair that one has to get rid of.
Okay.
That situation, I always say the same thing: no pain, no gain.
Okay.
Because you have to start to bleach out the tinted brown hair.
Okay, so you've got to take all that out.
Yeah. You don't have to take it all out, you can take bits out.
Okay.
I never generally bleach the whole head. I would never strip. I think you end up looking as fake as you would do if you were brown.
Yeah.
Trying to let grey grow in.
Right.
So for me, there are 3 pockets.
Yeah.
You've got a little smattering of grey, and you don't know whether to start colouring, you don't want to create a regrowth, or you've been colouring to blend in a smattering of grey hair. That's much easier to deal with, because you can actually just weave in some little bits of grey that start
to a bit more.
Start to kind of let your own grey colour develop into being a feature of your hair rather than something that you're trying to cover.
Yeah.
There's then the person that's maybe been colouring their hair for quite a long period of time. The lighter you are, so blondes, it's much easier to transition.
Because can you go sort of through ashy
you can just weave in again, a few highlights, lift it all up, make it a cooler blonde, and you're transitioning already. Okay. The darker the base, the more difficult. So that for me is we do that a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's a real current vogue for people not wanting to look heavily coloured, heavily brunette.
Yeah.
Within that category, you've really got to start to look at skin tones as an end result colour.
Okay, and does that then affect the shade of grey that you are going to try and work towards? Because it can be everything from steel through to silver.
Totally. Generally the dark. It's very difficult to generalise because with skin tone and eye colour, one's wanting to create something that looks individual.
Yeah.
But a rule of thumb is the darker you are in skin tone, the more of a blue grey or a very pigmented grey.
Yeah.
So a slate grey, a blue, a violet grey.
I've never thought of this huge palette of colour within grey, but there's a lot.
Grey's endless. It's like, it's a combination of black and white.
Yes.
So that, actually the way artists work, they always work with a grey scale to start with. Okay. So it's figuring out depth and shadow, and you can use all of those principles when creating grey hair.
Okay.
But a real simple tip is the darker one's skin tone, generally you need a grey that isn't a platinum grey or a silver grey. You need a darker, slightly darker grey with more pigment in it.
Okay. And greys with more types of tone in it. I wonder about, because I've seen some Friends like Nicola de Burley,
Yes.
you know, with her silver style pages, you know, amazing. There's
Yeah.
lots of grey in there, but it looks wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, jumping onto the third bucket is somebody that's 100% grey
Okay.
or white, because actually
Yeah.
grey hair is white. It's pigmentless.
Yes, it's just lost the pigment. Yeah.
When you feel grey and a bit dowdy is when you've got a mix of, let's say, your own brown colour with some of the grey non-pigmented hair.
Okay.
So when you end up 100% grey or white, Judi Dench, for instance, then you can really play.
Okay.
Because
and
that's,
how? Sorry.
well, that's like having a white piece of paper. You can make it any colour. You can play into pastel greys or pinky grey,
Yes.
a violety grey. Yes,
Pink.
exactly. So it really depends how grey you are as a starting point that is going to depict the end result that you can get.
Okay.
The difficult bits in the middle when you've got 50%, 60, 70% grey and you've been colouring your hair brown, that's difficult to remove the brown, the brown tint, the brown dye. It's much easier to bleach or lift natural pigment than it is a tinted or dyed pigment.
Okay.
Very hard to remove that.
The stuff that has been dyed
Yes,
in.
over and over and over and over and over.
Okay, particularly by the time it's got down to the end.
Yeah, because then your hair's
And
quite
then-
old. You've maybe coloured your, if you're
Yeah.
colouring your hair every 4 to 6
Goodness.
weeks, that's being done 10 to 12 times a year. You might have had that piece of hair on your head for 5 years. That's a lot of colour that's gone on top of your hair.
So there might be an argument in that case for quite a drastic cut to
Yeah,
go
I mean,
along with it.
yeah, I mean, one of the, the easiest ways to get rid of unwanted brown hair colour is to chop
Cut
it
it off. Yeah, absolutely. And what was I going to ask? Something about managing it. Well, obviously you need somebody to hold your hand through this process. Much easier if you've got a guiding aesthetic eye on this rather than trying to do it yourself, I would think. Yeah.
Not necessarily, unless you're very blonde and you want a kind of Scandi pale platinum silver. It can be achieved at home because you can use toners, but the middle bit, virtually impossible.
Yeah, really hard.
Because also as well, you need to create a colour. You need to be colouring the hair in the same pattern that you're greying. Most people grey here first,
Well,
like
you
don't see the
rest
back
of it.
but it needs to have a very subtle approach in relationship to the quantity of colour that you're putting into the hair.
Okay.
And the maintenance, anything, all those wonderful, greying, silver, violet shampoos and conditioners, masks, anything with a bit of violet undertone will help to neutralise any yellow.
To pull out the yellow. Okay, I would only use those in the context of sort of blonde hair and dyed blonde hair as well, so I'm never quite sure about them. But you don't want to overdo it with the violet ones, do you? Or with silver hair, is it?
Grey, it's not like you've processed your hair, so blonde hair is already processed, so it's porous.
Struggling to keep up with chemistry lesson as well as everything else.
Grey hair, if it hasn't been coloured, is less susceptible to porosity. So it doesn't, on some blondes you can quite see there's a violet hue, but on grey hair, not so much. And I don't know, maybe it's my age, but I quite like that Mrs. Slocum-y, slight bull rinse kind of.
It's really, I mean, there is, grey hair is a positive, fashionable choice now, isn't it? It's not
a
not
colour.
Like
it's become a colour.
A sort of the thing that time forgot. It has become a colour.
Also, I think in England specifically, we're slightly turning back the dial on that kind of. She's let herself go.
Yes.
I think it's being embraced. I think. I see with my clients, it's not a negative. It's not something that's going to, make them look or feel older in the workplace, for instance.
Yes.
I think you need to have a pretty dynamic hairstyle, and makeup needs to be taken into.
Do the makeup and the clothes and the styling, so it's clearly something you have taken charge of. It is a statement. Yeah, absolutely. So you want it to have gloss, you want it to have vibrancy and colour. And you want it to look like it's maintained, and then
I mean, I think natural grey hair that looks, really hydrated, shiny, sleek. I think it's actually really powerful as a colour. I've got several clients that really use that as a tool to kind of feel much more authentic with themselves.
Okay, you're making it sound really attractive, because I was a bit tempted in the summer because I put up a picture of how grey my roots had gone just before I had it sort of re-blonded a couple of months ago, and the number of people who came back saying preferred the grey, and I thought, oh, actually maybe I should have gone for it, but then I feel once I go grey there'll be no coming back from that.
Oh, there is. You can go blonde.
Really?
Again. Yeah. I mean,
maybe just cut it short.
Knowing you, you are a blonde. I mean, all the years
Thank
I've
you.
known
Although
you are
you have
blonde.
made me look a very good mousy dirty grey.
I think with your eye colour and skin tone, you're much happier in those kind of vanilla, sun-kissed, soft.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of very pale gold in your hair, I think, for you to feel.
But I could move that into
with your eye
silver,
colour, you could definitely
not
transition
too hard.
into.
I think I need a bit more makeup the whole time.
I think
you
when
want to give the skin to look really great, not like it's gone pale and flat.
Well, I think it's like both ends of the scale. Somebody that has their hair tinted black is quite similar to being grey. You just need more colour on your face.
Yes.
When you become, my hair's colourless.
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of slightly have a healthy glow. Mm-hmm. As you say, I think it can all look a little bit London grey.
Yeah. More yoga. We'll talk about
Sanding
that later. Josh, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Absolute delight, and I think that'll be really helpful for a lot of people.
Great.
So very kind of you to give me the
Pleasure.
time. Okay, thanks.